They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
All right, so we're going to go through, talk about our top 5 forwards for this season. Now, how we're going to define this is we're going to be talking about guys that don't have center eligibility. So, I mean, if you can play small forward, power forward, I mean, even throw in like a shooting guard here or there, obviously like someone like LeBron, you can kind of put him anywhere. It's hard to just go through and make that one concrete list, understanding that different sites are going to have different positions attached. But yeah, we're going to go through 5 of them. And as always, I'm an idiot. So who y'all need to be listening to is Garrett. And with that being said, if Garrett says something stupid, let him know in the comment section. And Garrett, yeah, you want to start us off with our first player? We can go exactly how we did with the guards in the last one.
Yeah, and I would like to say I am no expert. I'm just me and Johnny, we just love basketball, and we've been doing the fantasy for years, and these are just my personal projections. And Johnny and I are actually going to release we're going to release kind of our rankings, our own rankings. Me and Johnny align on a lot of things, and if there's any differences, we'll make sure to list that out there. But check out our Twitter, and we'll post it there eventually. But that being said, yeah, let's go right into the forwards. And number one for me right off the bat is KD. I think that he's going to have a great year. I think that he shined. My only concern with him is load management. Everything else, he's going to shoot above 50% probably. He's going to be fine on the free throws. Points per game, he's probably going to be up there, top 5, top 10, probably average around 25 to 30. He's going to get the rebounds. He always gets the rebounds. I mean, he's a 7-foot forward, so of course he's going to get the rebounds. He gets the assists, and he even is pretty decent for blocks. So I think that he just stuffs the stat sheet. So in points leagues, KD's my guy. We talked about it a little bit in our guards video, but if Kyrie were to miss time, KD automatically, potentially, KD and Harden are probably 1 and 2 in the whole league. Just the only issue with them is there's the big 3, right? So KD's my guy. He's my number 1 forward for this year.
So like, if you're talking about like load management, what would be like a reasonable amount of games that you could potentially see him missing? I know we talked about in the last video that we don't like projecting stuff like that, but like realistically, I think it is something that you have to at least talk about when we know that this team is like, they have title aspirations.
Sure. I mean, I could see him playing under 70 games this year. I think that's realistic, barring an injury. If there is an injury, probably less. But I don't like to count on that. I think that he'll probably play less than Harden. I think Harden will probably play more games, again, barring injury, just because KD is known to rest a lot and he needs the rest. So I'm going to say right around 70 he'll play.
Awesome. Well, you want to go into our second guy here?
Yeah, so my second guy, this one was actually really tough for me. I was pretty torn between Paul George and Tatum. And I actually thought about it for a bit, and I think I'm going to go Tatum over Paul George. Let me explain why before everyone says, oh, well, we don't know what's going on with Kawhi, so it's Paul George's team. Yeah, but we know it's Tatum's team, right? And he's younger, and I think he has the potential to take another step up this year. I mean, if we're just watching the playoffs last year, he was a beast. He single-handedly won the Celtics games in the playoffs. And I think that he just took a leap, and I think that he's going to keep going on that leap. So I'm going to take Tatum number 2. I think he's going to average, right around 30 points per game, maybe 25 to 30. He's going to get you the rebounds. He's going to get you some assists. He plays good defense, and he plays a lot of minutes compared to these other guys. I mean, I think he'll average around 35 minutes. Looking at KD, I wouldn't be surprised if KD averaged 31 to 33 minutes. So I think Tatum bumps above Paul George in my personal rankings just because of that.
And I know it's literally like a meme to say this at this point, like it's a joke to say it, but at the end of the day, he is only 23 years old, and he recently turned 23 too, which is crazy to think about because of course everybody knows this has been someone we've been talking about for the past 5 years. It's a meme to say it, but yeah, it at least has to be said that he could continue to improve.
I agree. And I think that Paul George, it's funny with Paul George, and we'll just head right into him. So Paul George is number 3. With Paul George, it's funny because you don't know if you're getting MVP Paul George, who's the best player in the league, or playoff P, who's hitting the sides of backboards, airballing shots. So he's a little bit more inconsistent. I do think that he's going to be a dark horse MVP this year. I think he could be really, really good, especially with, we don't know what's going on with Kawhi. I think Paul George is going to have high minutes. I think he's going to be really good on offense. Categories league. I think that he kind of stuffs the stat sheet. He does everything well. I mean, maybe defensively, he's not I mean, a lot of people will say he plays great defense, but he doesn't really get you the blocks that you want. He never really has. But other than that, I mean, he gets the steals and he's just an overall solid player. If Kawhi happens to miss more time than we expect, I think Paul George is actually a potential league winner. I think that's how good he'll be. But for now, we're just going to kind of, keep our expectations a little bit lower. Hope that Kawhi gets back soon, and I'm going to put him comfortably at 3. Again, toss up between 2 and 3.
So keep in mind, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything. What is exactly going on with Kawhi? Because I know, didn't he sign a pretty big contract this past offseason?
I think he did sign something, but basically, I think he went through and had a surgery, and I'm pretty sure it was a pretty major surgery for a. I'm looking it up right now, and I think it says he had a partial tear of the ACL in his right knee. That's something that's serious, and he'll probably come back within this season. And that's the expectations right now. But with something like that, you don't want to rush your guy back, especially if it's your star. So that's why it's all up in the air, right? So if Paul George, is pretty much the only star on the team until Kawhi comes back, and Kawhi doesn't come back till closer to the playoffs, that's why I'm saying Paul George could be a league winner. But Kawhi is also a freak of nature, so he could come back, sooner than expected, and then that takes away from Paul George. So that's why it's kind of a game here, right?
Awesome. So that's our top 3. You want to slide into that 4th guy?
Yeah. Number 4, I have Butler. I think Butler is going to be really good. And before we do that, I do want to again mention, there are a lot of power forwards that we're not talking about, like Giannis and other guys. And that's because they have center eligibility. So we're going to talk about them for the centers. So next up for me is Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, he's a beast. He's going to, play high minutes. Hopefully he's going to get around 33 minutes per game. He shoots around 50%. Not that really matters too much for a points league, but he's going to get you the rebounds. He's a great rebounder. I think he'll get 6 rebounds per game. I think he'll get 20 points per game. He's also kind of the ball handler for them a lot. So I think he'll get a lot of assists. And he's pretty good on D. He's not as good as he once was, I would say, because when we were watching him in the finals a couple of years ago, he was just a maniac. He was so good. I don't think we're going to get that all season long. I do also think that he'll probably be on rest watch if Miami's playing really, really well, though they might want to save him for the playoffs, but we'll see. But I do think that he's comfortably at 4 when it comes to forwards without center eligibility.
Okay. And also, if you're looking at it, exactly what kind of value are you associating with versus a LeBron James, who technically you can put a guard, you can put a point guard, shooting guard, what positions are you going through and valuing a little bit more? Would it matter more for you for someone like Zach LaVine that you can play him at shooting guard compared to power forward, additional small forward, or does it just not matter at all?
So for these guys, Jimmy Butler, you can typically get in the second round. So say I draft Tatum in the first round. I might actually be convinced to get LeBron after that because he has more positional opportunities than Butler does. But if I'm strictly basing these guys off of how I think that they're going to perform, I think Butler is going to outperform LeBron. So I do think that does matter. And actually, LeBron is my number 5, but that just depends on how my draft's going, right? Let's base it back to football. If you draft 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds, you're probably going to want to go and pivot to a wide receiver or something of that nature. So you're not just missing out on positions. It's kind of the same thing here. If you drafted a forward and then another forward, and then in the 3rd round, Butler falls to you, you might want to consider taking a guy like LaVine or SGA or something like that in the 3rd round. So that way you can kind of beef up your teams positionally.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And who's our 5th guy that we're going to talk about? LeBron?
Yeah, for me, it's LeBron.
So with LeBron, are we going through what exactly are we having to make the adjustment for with just the personnel changes that we have seen this season? With Westbrook coming in, you would think that there's no way that LeBron sees the regular usage with Westbrook here if they intend to use Westbrook anything close to what he's had as his role for years now.
Yeah, that is a concern that I have. I am actually a little bit concerned about LeBron, but it is LeBron, and I feel like there are concerns every year, and every year he is great. So I'm going to try to not factor that in too much. I'm also going to factor in the fact that AD is a super big injury risk. I try not to factor in injury risk, but with AD, it seems like it's every year he's missing a lot of games. So thinking of all of that and factoring all of that in, I think LeBron is still going to be a good play. I think that he is going to And this also depends on what kind of league you're in, right? Like if you're in a league with a bunch of guys who don't know basketball too much, but they know the names, LeBron could be going in the first round, and then I'm not taking him, right? Like, but if you're in a league with a bunch of really knowledgeable players, LeBron could easily drop to round 2 or 3, based just upon age and Russ coming in and AD being there. So I would love to take a shot on LeBron if I can get him, somewhere end of round 2, early round 3. He is a solid player. He has a lot of positions that he can play. I'm pretty sure he's point guard through power forward eligible or something like that, depending on the platform that you use. And I still think he's going to get you your points. I mean, I think he'll average around 20 to 25 points per game. He's going to get the rebounds. He's going to get the assists. Yeah, I just think he's a great play this year, especially if you can get him lower. Obviously, don't reach for him, but I do think he'll be a top 5 forward at the end of the year.
Awesome. And I think that can round out our video, but really quick, we have to say that on the horizon, we have a listener league that we are going to be doing with Johnny, Garrett, and myself. So just make sure you're on the lookout for that. We'll be, of course, giving those updates out when that's closer to being officially done. I'd imagine probably next week, 10 days or so. And if you are interested in joining that league, make sure you leave a comment below letting us know so you can come in, you can crush us and show exactly how much smarter you are.
Yeah, I on some of the previous videos, some guys were like, "Oh, I'd love to be in a league with this guy." Well, hey, now is your opportunity. Leave a comment on this video. We'll probably tweet out the league when it's ready, and we'll have people comment on that. It'll probably be like a 10 or 12 person league, and come in and show me how much better you are than me, and I'd love to see it. So
awesome.